GOP obstructionism is in the air. Recently, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died, and as a result, the Supreme Court has a vacancy. There's only 8 justices now. So, the Republicans are trying to hold up the process. They're trying to say that President Obama doesn't have the right to, nominate another justice, and that he should hold off, and that it should be placed into the hands of the next president. They want to hold this thing off for at least another 11 months. Just a few days ago at the GOP town hall, Marco Rubio even stated that if he was president right now, surely he wouldn't nominate anyone. No, he wouldn't do it. That's what he said. So some other Republicans, actually all of them, are talking, and they don't agree. They agree with Marco. President Obama should not nominate anybody. They're not going to hold any hearings. They're not going to give any votes to whoever Obama nominates.
Let's focus on some quotes made by some leading Republicans first. Chuck Grassley, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. That committee initiates vetting processes for nominees and oversees all confirmation hearings. And he said, "The fact of the matter is that it's been standard practice over the last nearly 80 years that Supreme Court nominees are not nominated and confirmed during a presidential election year. Given the huge divide in the country and the fact that this president, above all others, has made no bones about his goal to use the courts to circumvent Congress and push through his own agenda, it only makes sense that we defer to the American people who will elect a new president to select the Supreme Court justice." Now, before we move on, when has Obama said anything about using the courts to circumvent anything? That's their talking point.
Yeah.
Obama made no bones about it. What?
Actually, what Obama wants to do is follow the Constitution and nominate a Supreme Court justice, which the Constitution allows him to do.
Yeah, the
Republicans are saying that no, he should not follow his constitutional duty as president.
Why should the Americans elect a new president to do something that the current president is supposed to do?
Exactly.
That's just because they just don't like Obama. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is.
That's the only reason.
All right, now the last justice to be confirmed during a presidential election was Anthony Kennedy. He was nominated by Reagan in 1987. And that confirmation vote went 97-0. And Chuck Grassley was a part of the Senate Judiciary Committee back then too. Let's fast forward to July 2008, when Chuck Grassley attended a Senate Republican conference, which they were holding a forum to discuss, guess what? The importance of removing politics from the judicial confirmation process.
Ooh.
Yeah. And during this conference, he expressed his dislike and what he called unjustified slowness of the confirmation process. I want to read.
Sounds a little similar.
Yeah, I know. I want to read a quote from him. "Unfortunately, the Democrats have been employing some fast and fancy footwork to avoid their constitutional responsibility. Democratic leadership is putting partisan advantage ahead of the health of our judicial system."
So he's saying that the nomination and the selection of Supreme Court justices should not be a partisan issue.
No, it should.
The process should move along required by the Constitution.
That's the 2008 Chuck Grassley.
Oh, okay.
8
years later.
That's the 2008 Chuck Grassley, and obviously, he has had a change of heart.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
But in my opinion, 2008 Chuck Grassley dropped the mic on 2016 Chuck Grassley.
Yeah, I think so.
It's nothing different with other leading Republicans. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, issued his statements after Scalia's death. "The American people should have a voice in the selection of their Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president."
So he's saying the same thing as what Grassley said.
Yeah, he pretty much parroting the same thing Grassley said.
And he's saying that we should hold off the new president should fill this vacancy.
Again, what's the reasoning behind that? There is no logical explanation behind why this president right here shouldn't choose one, but the next one should.
Right.
And again, there's this idea that somehow the American people are not having a voice. Well, they did. That's what they
in 2012.
In 2012, they elected President Obama.
Exactly, and he hasn't completed his term yet.
Exactly. And
so I remember you saying Grassley, his recent comments, but then you said how his earlier comments. I believe that was 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were much different. Is that the case with McConnell?
Oh, you mean is he a hypocrite too?
Yeah. Is he?
Yes.
He is. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you need to check out some of the 2005 Mitch McConnell's quotes. The Constitution of the United States is at stake. Article 2, Section 2 clearly provides that the president and the president alone nominates judges. The Senate is empowered to give advice and consent. But my Democratic colleagues want to change the rules. They want to reinterpret the Constitution to acquire a supermajority for confirmation. In effect, they would take away the power to nominate from the president and grant it to a minority of 41 senators. The Republican conference intends to restore the principle that, regardless of party, any president's judicial nominees, after full debate, deserve a simple up or down vote. I know that some of our colleagues wish that restoration of this principle were not required, but it is a measured step that my friends on the other side of the aisle have unfortunately made necessary. For the first time in 214 years, they have changed the Senate's advise and consent responsibilities to advise and obstruct.
Wow. So hold up. Key words there. Advise and obstruct. That's what he said.
So in 2005, Mitch McConnell was accusing the opposition party of advising and obstructing. And actually, essentially, they weren't doing any of that. They were essentially doing the vetting.
Before we get to the cherry, former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, a Republican, this is what she offered to the situation. I think we need somebody there to do the job now, and let's get on with it. This is Sandra Day O'Connor, a Republican, appointed by Reagan. She's saying, let's get this political ball moving. We need somebody in there right now. There are pressing matters that need to be addressed by the Supreme Court. We need 9 justices in there so that we have all the voices we need to get a good ruling. It's supposed to be unbalanced for a reason.
So they're going to leave an open chair for over a year?
Over a year, because it's going to take months. It's not like, the new president is going to step in January and say, okay, here's my nominee. Next day, he's going to get confirmed. Or she's going to get confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's going to take months, too.
That. Exactly. The vetting process, the up or down vote, it's going to take time. So these Republicans want to hold up this process for well over a year. Hold up the courts or the court cases that the Supreme Court handles. They want to hold that up for over a year. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let's get to that cherry.
I think the cherry on top should come in the form of a message from the Gipper himself.
From the Gipper himself. Let's play that clip.
I'm certain he will be a leader on the Supreme Court. The experience of the last several months has made all of us a bit wiser. I believe the mood and the time is now right for all Americans in this bicentennial year of the Constitution to join together in a bipartisan effort to fulfill our constitutional obligation of restoring the United States Supreme Court to full strength. By selecting Anthony M. Kennedy, a superbly qualified judge whose fitness for the High Court has been remarked upon by leaders of the Senate in both parties, I have sought to ensure the success of that effort. I look forward, and I know Judge Kennedy is looking forward, to prompt hearings conducted in the spirit of cooperation and bipartisanship. I'll do everything in my power as president to assist in that process.
That's gotta hurt. I mean, that's got to sting just a little bit because Reagan is their guy.
No,
I mean, all of them talking about being Reagan Republicans.
Yes, or wanting if Reagan was in office today. That's how they always
Rubio.
qualify their statements when they disagree with something Obama does. If Reagan were in office,
Yep.
So I mean, zombie Reagan has spoken.
Yep. And he has said, "Act, Congress.
Act.
Stop holding up the political process." And what was the vote? Now he put forth Anthony Kennedy, and after this speech, right? They voted, right?
Yeah, 97.
What was it again?
97 to 0.
97-0. Bipartisanship. You heard Reagan say that, right? Bipartisanship. 97-0. Hey, Congress, do your job.